there. Welcome everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm having a good day. Sorry to be gone for so long. Unfortunately, COVID kicked me in the butt. I'm so glad that I had the symptoms that I did, in that they weren't as bad as they could have been. So make sure you get vaccinated, boosted, all that good stuff if you haven't already, and take care of yourself, all that good stuff. But enough about me. I would love to get to this episode. Sorry for canceling last week, but we have a new guest this week, and I'm hopefully going to reschedule Alexandra Rose DeAngelis for sometime soon, so we can get to talk to them and hear everything she's up to, because she's got some fun stuff going on. So yeah. But yes, welcome to episode 43. My guest today is a theater producer, director, art actor, and educator based in the southern New Jersey, Philadelphia region. She serves as producing artistic director at the Eagle Theater, a small professional theater based in Hammonton, New Jersey. Most recently, she directed the first production after 2 years of pandemic-related closure, Xanadu, in the spring of 2022. At the Eagle, she directs main stage productions, produces professional theater productions, as well as many other special events like new works development readings, stand-up comedy, drag shows, town-wide holiday events, and the New Jersey Fringe Festival, hosted at the Eagle Theater this upcoming August. Or in August in general. I don't know why I added that part in. Anyway, she holds her MA in theater from Villanova University and a BA in theater from Rowan University, where she now works as an adjunct professor of theater. At Villanova, she performed in She Loves Me, A Midsummer Night's Dream as Hermia, and Orlando as Sasha. For her graduate thesis, she wrote and performed in I'm an Actress, a solo performance adaptation of Chekhov's The Seagull. She has written and produced original work in the Philadelphia Fringe Festival for several years and has performed in and directed professional and semi-professional productions throughout the tri-state area. She loves vintage fashion, thrifting, home decor, and drag. I absolutely adore my guest today. She's funny, passionate, compassionate, talented, and incredibly smart and hardworking. I'm so grateful to have gotten to spend time with her at Villanova. And I was going to say something funny in general, but all I have is just this genuine introduction. So without further ado, this is Angela Rose Longo. Hello.
Woo! Thank
How are you? Of course. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Doing good.
Pretty excited to chat about theater with you today.
Absolutely. I always love chatting theater with you, Angela. So yeah, I always like to provide context of how do we know each other. For those who have watched long enough or listened long enough, it's either always Wagner or Villanova. So today it's Villanova. You were originally a year ahead of me, but then COVID and extra class and things like that, becoming an artistic producer happened. So we got to graduate together instead.
For sure. Yeah, I had a weird journey throughout my time at Villanova, but it worked out. It was all for the best, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
Well, you also got to experience being both like a full-time and a part-time student. So I'm sure that was kind of nice too. You got a little bit of like the pros and cons of both.
It's true. I'm like, part of my decision to be part-time was like personal, but then it was also like COVID, and then it was also like I have a job. So
yeah, you're kind of working full-time in a theater. So
I like don't know if I can blame my own life or if I can blame just like the global pandemic, but
yeah, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We may never know.
Never know.
We were in a production of Midsummer Night's Dream together, but barely together on stage because we were in the different like groups.
That's true.
But we never really got to spend a whole lot of time on stage, but I remember a lot of backstage shenanigans. So that's what mattered in that scenario. We worked on Merrily together, but as anyone from Villanova or who knows me knows, got canceled for COVID. I so wish people could have seen your Mary. It was so beautiful and heartbreaking and all of the things. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that specific thing, because that project was so special for both of us, I know.
Sometimes I'm like, does anybody care? Is it just me and Lora?
I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just you and me who are still like really emotionally attached.
I'm like, anybody else remember that really cool thing that we almost did?
Yeah.
No?
Well, okay. Well, no, like you, me, and Harry.
I know.
And also Dr. Valerie Joyce, but she's deeply wounded from it. So that's a whole nother scenario, but
I
it was so special. But I have a feeling we'll all get a chance to work on the material in some fashion, in time. Crossing all those fingers. And then, of course, we worked on Beginning, a short play inspired by Anne Carson's The Bacchae, written by alum Jessica Bedford. That was so wacky because it was our really first like fully produced Zoom theater piece. We had mics. We were calling it like film, but it took place on a Zoom call. It was just so much fun, though.
That was your thesis too, right?
Yeah. I got to do my thesis, and I think Tina got to do her thesis on it as well. And that
We
was just
both
so much.
experienced doing our theses behind cameras or behind screens. So
Yeah, that was so weird
just
as well.
Not quite what you expect.
No, not exactly. Well, and especially when I had like 1 year and you had like 2 full years of like quote unquote real time at Villanova, to see people do all these like amazing thesis work, and then you're sitting there like in front of your camera or whatever, and you're like, does that count? Is that real?
It's like after like the camera cut, I was like, cool.
You're like, yeah.
I'll close my laptop and go to bed now.
No, literally, that was me, because it's like I finished my thesis production. Yay! I guess I'll go downstairs and make some mac and cheese.
Like, I know. I think about like I don't. For anyone that watches drag, like there was a season where like during the pandemic where Jada Essence Hall won her season, and she literally won it on a Zoom call. She went, I don't even know how much money they win. They win like $500,000, and you just find out about it on a Zoom call, and then you close your laptop. It's just like there's like 10 million people watching you.
Just mind-boggling.
Just, like, click.
Oh my god.
Sad.
That's so upsetting. But at the same time, it's always like the people that bring you back to it. Because like with having James Imes directing us, a former guest here on Overtures, Kenzie Bradley, was stage managing. You, me, Manda, Tina, the 4 of us. It just brought so much light. Like that was just such a wacky group of people that I had so much fun doing it, despite how weird it was.
I know. Oh, I mean, I was doing it with like my parents downstairs.
Yeah, I'm sure that was
like, I'm like, sorry, I don't know. I mean, I just was like getting into costume with my parents, like downstairs, just like living their lives.
Well, no, I had a similar thing because I had 2 housemates, but neither of whom were theater related at all. Like one was like law student, like working on stuff, and the other one was like a nursing medical type field. And I'm like, this is weird, guys. I'm so sorry. Like,
for real.
Don't mind me. Oh my gosh. What time we had at Villanova, quite truly. But getting back to the beginning of things for Angela Longo, how did you first get started in theater?
I guess I was a singer when I was a kid, kind of. Well, I thought I was, at least. I was like, I at least like found out that I wasn't tone deaf when I was like pretty young, and I just wanted an excuse to sing, but I was kind of shy. So I was like, I can sing in the choir of the show, I guess. So I like grew up in choirs and then show choirs, which turned into musicals. And I was just always like cool with being like in the background. I just wanted to sing in the chorus. And I was like, that's cool with me. So that's basically how I got caught up in it. And then, I mean, I was joking about this with Dash, my boyfriend, that the only reason I like really experienced having a lead was like after like every girl quit the show because the director got fired or something like that. And they were like, all right, well, that girl, why don't you play Rizzo in Grease? And I was just like, all right. But otherwise, I would not have ever had an experience of like caring about plays or musicals or telling the story. I really just wanted to sing, but then I kind of like got into it.
Well, and then it's funny because also getting thrown into the role of like Rizzo from the ensemble, I'm sure that was kind of a like, wow, okay, I'm playing a character now. Like there's not an easy one to just like be.
Yeah, I was just like a shy middle schooler, and I was like totally cool. Like I'm like, cool, it's fine. I just want to sing. That's all I wanted to do. And then when there was pressure on it, I was like, oh shoot. don't want to look like a jerk. So then I tried to start caring about it. And then I got into it. And then I was like, oh, this is fun. Well, it wasn't even more that I like started to care about it. I was like kind of like power hungry. I was like, give me the parts. I want
that's parts. Fair. Like once you got that taste of like, oh, this is what it's like to like have a character and speak things and like have a
because I was definitely like I was into the attention of it definitely as a kid. I was like, cool, you are watching me. So I was like into that.
Yeah.
I was always kind of probably like a shy attention whore. Like I don't know if that's like
that humble, like the don't look at me. Like I think of like the song like Show Off in Drowsy Chaperone. The whole time she's like, oh, like I'm quitting. I'm not doing this anymore. But meanwhile, she's like doing everything in the splits and you know, as you do. But
so I mean, I was always plenty insecure, I think. But
yeah, no, I'm more of a parallel rather than like an exact version. No worries. But so then I'm curious as to what your overture moment was, where it was less of like, oh, I like this and this is fun, and when it became like, oh, I can actually like do this though.
Yeah, I mean, my like progress to being like I'm going to do theater was like not motivated by me like at all. Like I was going through high school like identity crisis by the minute, like just always changing my mind about what I wanted to do. And like to this day, like one of the worst decisions of my life was like where I first went to college, because I was like, I'm going to go study fashion merchandising because I was like, not that I'm not anymore, but I was like big environmentalist in high school. And I was like, I want to open a thrift store. I care about like the end of fast fashion. Like that is what I want to do. So I went to Philadelphia University for fashion merchandising, and I had a miserable time because if you go to school for fashion, it's very cutthroat. It's like a fashion show every day. And I was like, oh, that's not what I thought I was doing.
Like that's no.
So I was like quickly changed my major, took a bunch of just gen eds, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to come back home. And my mom was like, just go to school for theater. Like you were into that in high school. Like, and my mom was always like, I wanted you to be famous, Angela. You should be on American Idol. And I was just like impulsive. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this. So long story short, now I guess I'm in undergrad, and I guess the overture that I would say was probably, like learning directing technique and acting technique, like for the first time, like somebody actually like explaining to me this thing that I'm like kind of interested in, but I'm kind of shy, I'm kind of insecure, how there's like practical things and there's like a way that you can like learn this and build skills in this, and that it's actually like something that you can grow in. It's not just something that you're like, oh, you're a born talented person. Like, I always had that stigma in my head that like, you either got it or you don't. And when I kind of learned that like, oh, there's a process for this, there's a way that this can be done, whether you've got that gift or not. Just because I think that when I learned that like, oh, it takes like somebody who's got like leadership and who's got like kind of nerve to be a leader in the field, I was like, oh, I think I do see myself like that. I thought that it was always just about like, you're talented and that's why you're successful. But when I learned that it's actually like, it's about the personality, and it's about like, you've got what it takes mentally and emotionally. I was like, oh, I think that is me then.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like you were saying, like it's something that you can build and work on, as opposed to like something you get immediately. Because like you were saying, I think sometimes in like high school and younger, people just assume it's like, oh, well, like I've never done that before, so I don't think I could do that. But it's like, no, if it's something that you enjoy and decide to work on more, like the amount of like dancers that I know who are like, oh no, I just dance, I don't sing, or like vice versa, who then become very amazingly talented people because they went to class and trained and discovered,
and I think
also, it's more to it.
Yeah, and I think also because I learned that it's a super multidisciplinary field, like you're more useful if you have more skills in a lot of ways, or you're more employable if you have more skills. And I think that was like always encouraging to me, because I was like, dang, I like doing so many different things. And I felt like that was a weakness. And I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to focus on something.
Right.
Luckily, the random school that happened to be 30 minutes from my house in South Jersey was a BA program that was multidisciplinary. So it just worked out that my mom just bullied me into going to Rowan University because it ended up being a good fit for me. Luckily, I guess. So yeah, I think, learning that being multidisciplinary was a strength and that it's always something that you can grow and improve upon was like, okay,
Yeah.
I probably should do this.
Well, yeah. And I think there's something to be said for like those BA programs where it's like, get your hands on as much of it as you want. Like the more that you know, like leaving school or leaving wherever you're coming from, like I think, again, like you were saying, that makes you totally more employable. And kind of going off of that, you have done a little bit of everything as an actor. You've done Shakespeare, you've adapted Chekhov, you sang, even danced a little bit. And so for your graduate thesis at Villanova, you created your solo show, I'm an Actress, an adaptation of The Seagull based on Nina. And I know you've discussed this one at length, being that it was, in fact, your thesis and you had to defend it. But what helped you come up with that project?
I should have known that you were going to talk to me about this, but I was I literally put him. Oh my gosh. Well, Nina has just like always been a character that I have like this, like, I don't know. She's obviously like an archetype in theater at this point.
Yeah.
But I love this girl so much.
Yeah.
And without it being like cliche, but I just like really cared about this girl, Nina. And I was like, this girl, like, she needs to be understood. And it's always like this, like, also this like archetype in like the acting canon of like the girl that can play Nina. Like that is the hardest role you could possibly play. Like I remember like a teacher like assigning me like anything Nina from Chekhov and feeling like that was the biggest compliment. I'm like, oh, if you think I can handle that, you think I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And then also like at the same time knowing that like no one's ever going to do this show and I'll probably never play this part in my life. So I was just like going through this, like I really related to this like character and like so many of the like Lordy.
Oh, Pearl.
Hi, Pearl. I really related to like her kind of some of the like tragic things about her and like how, and just wanted to give her like a hero story. But then I also like really wanted to like, there's many layers of this, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do a part that I was like, I'm never going to play this. One, because no one's ever going to do it. Two, because it's like the hardest thing. And I'm like, I'm an okay actor, but I'm like, the chances of somebody wanting to cast me in this insanely challenging role is probably not going to happen, whatever. And then also, there's another reason. Nina, brain.
That's
thoughts.
okay if you can't think of it.
It'll come to me. But regardless, I just needed to like tell this girl's story. And dude, the thought in my brain is really smart and I want to synthesize it for you, Lora.
You got it. You got it. I believe in you. If you can't think of it though, we'll come back to it. Just stop me immediately if you think of it. But and I think it's especially cool because the story that you tell of Nina happens in that like, was it like several year long gap in between?
Yeah, there's like there's a 3-year long gap
in the play.
Of like, yeah, where she like goes away and then comes back and she's pregnant. It's not a happy ending at all. Whatever, but
well, and it gave you a chance to really use those multiple hats because, of course, it was a solo performance. So Villanova kind of demands that when it comes to solo performance, but also with COVID and everything that like came to fruition, you were creating this and adapting this story yourself. You were the one performing in it, but also to a point, you were the director of it because you were like, hey, make sure the camera's here. And you guys were working on that together with your camera people. And did Kristen Curley also help you in that? Yeah, there was a few other people. So it gave you a chance to use all those hats.
Yeah, totally. never want to do it again. But
Yeah,
well,
no, that's
in
great.
general, I would love to do the piece that I wrote again. Do I ever want to do it behind a camera by myself again? No, probably
No.
not.
And that was the odd part too, because it had to be fully filmed and you had literally no audience. And knowing you and the way I knew you, you're a very comedic person. And there are so many bits of that show that like are both lighthearted but also tragic too. And I'm sure that doing that for a camera was just really tough.
Yeah,
to
not
say
my
the
favorite
least.
thing.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing.
I'm sure that came up a few times in your thesis defense.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, honestly, my defense went really poorly. I mean, there was like, and it was almost all like content based, like about like it feeling, oh my God, not that they're listening, but like about this, like this, it was just so personal to me. But about the piece, like feeling like, you know, hiding behind Chekhov and like letting another smart man's work like speak for me. And I was and it was just such like a weird, like, whoof. I was just like, am I doing that? It was like a really hard like pill to swallow. And I was just like, I like, don't know how I feel about this feedback. So I don't know. It's just something I've always been chewing on. I'm like,
maybe it's something to revisit further down the line.
But the other thing, the thing that I wanted to say about the show too is mostly about the title, because speaking about being multidisciplinary, being an actress is something that I've always been like afraid of disappearing. And I'm an actress is like a line that she like famously like screams throughout the piece. But I've always been afraid of like, you know, the more you step into a leadership position, the more you step into a producer or a director position, like the less you're going to be taken seriously as an actor. And also like having just like so much like years long like history of being like not the most confident actor. Like I'm not joking. Like I'm always like back row of the chorus. I'm like, I just want to sing. But like then like getting some skills, getting some training, like really caring about the scripts and like I've been like this person that's like, I want people to care about the scripts. I want people to care about the characters. And now I feel like I'm an actor and I want to like take care of a character and I want to play this role, but I want people to believe me that I'm an actress. So that was always like my like kind of piece of defiance, I guess, was like choosing a title and being like, I'm an actress. I could have just done an acting thesis and proved that, but I had to take it one step further.
No, that's okay. Well, and it was such a good I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed your thesis so much. And I think that the titles are always really hard to pick. So you picked an awesome one for your piece. And I'm excited to see that piece develop as time goes on. But in the meantime, we also want to talk about your directing experiences and style and all that good stuff. You've directed various different fringe productions. How did you get involved? Start getting involved in those? Did you start getting involved like through Rowan or outside? How did you get involved?
Kind of, yeah. My undergrad Rowan is like really big into like nourishing and like cultivating like self-producers. Like it's just something that they're really proud of, and a lot of people in my cohort and my alma mater always like kind of go off and become these self-producers. And we also like part of it happens with the senior projects that happen in my theater department, where people would basically self-produce as their senior project. Like there's so many different avenues you could do, but a lot of people wanted to, you know, like write a piece or devise something, and then they want to see it like happen from start to finish. Like they want to do the costumes, they want to write the script, they want to cast it. I'm like, and that was just like kind of what we did. So I kind of took that and ran with it. So my senior project was the first thing that I like ever like, I produced it at Rowan University, but then I recast it with other professional actors and produced it in like a tiny like dance studio. I just, you know, did the fringe thing. And then, I guess I did a few like small fringe pieces that were devised mostly with friends. And I mean, I found a lot of joy in, you know, having control and like having my own space and having my own kind of parameters for making theater. And fringe is just like the perfect place to do that and stretch those muscles.
Absolutely. It's such a collaborative space and a very supportive space too for both like those working on it and those like coming to see it. And so I'm always curious to ask directors this because everyone has such different answers, but I'm curious as to your like particular like philosophies, beliefs, or values when it comes to directing.
I guess, I mean, my personal like thing, I guess, like my like stamp is like, I'm all about like making pretty pictures, and I like care about many things separately. Like I guess my like primary thing that like if you're gonna like see something of mine, you'll probably like be like, oh, that's Angela's, is that I like totally care about aesthetic. Like I need everything to be cohesive and beautiful and pretty. I love making like beautiful stage pictures with actors. Like I want to see like people in power like takes front and center, and I want to see like balance and symmetry, and I love like choreography and mapping and floor patterns. Like I like all that to be pretty and neat and clean and like orderly and cool. And then I like my like other thing is just like independent, private like book work. I like to do the script, but I primarily like share my like visual vision with the actors. And then I like to make sure I like to cast really smart people so that I don't have to sit down and do as much book work, because I guess I get a little insecure at the table reads sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to interrupt your process. I don't want to say something that's going to interrupt your process. Like if you do my stage blocking and you act well, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I just like, I'm personally not like the kind of director that wants to like sit down and do table work. I'm like, I want to see it. I want to make sure it looks cool and pretty. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm just going to fingers crossed that you do a really good job with your acting. I don't know how other people are. I know that
that's okay.
Opinions, but
well, and here's the thing, you're also a very smart actor and director as well. So like by having all of these smart people in the room, things find their way. And oftentimes I know for me, sometimes like knowing where I am in a picture is very difficult. So for a director to be like, I can see this whole thing and guide that, I think it's so helpful. And talking about stage pictures, we have some beautiful stage pictures of some shows that you have directed. So I'm going to pull up just your website and we're going to just like take a look at a few and chat. I know these are from two separate productions. I know the one here on the left is from Xanadu.
It is. Yeah. There's a variety of things in no particular order on my website.
That's okay. If there are any that stick out that you're like, ooh, I want to talk about that, let me know.
Well, I'll tell you about this picture right here with this beautiful woman with red shoes.
Yes.
This is so I also of my interests in theater, I love solo performance, sort of, but so one of the solo pieces that I wrote for myself, I decided, I was like, I really want to see what this looks like on somebody else. So I directed my friend Jess Money as me, basically. And so that is a picture from that piece. Was originally written for myself, but then transferred. That's also Xanadu. And that's Death by Chocolate, which is the first Philly Fringe piece I ever did.
Yeah, it looks like it's such a cool, interesting space too. That one was one that was like in a basement, right?
That was in a dance studio.
Oh, that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Of course, Xanadu.
That's also Death by Chocolate with that. I like blue gels, apparently. There's blue LEDs. That picture, the like mixing, is also from a solo piece that I wrote that I directed somebody else.
No, that's okay. I recognize some of these too because I've read some of the solo pieces and they're also really wonderful. More Xanadu.
Yeah,
what's this one?
That is well, the title of it is actually on that poster. The Effective Gamma Rays on Man in the Moon Marigolds is the name of the play. But that is a play by, oh God, I'm gonna get the playwright's name wrong. I was gonna say Paul Zimond. I forget his name. But it was the first full-length anything I ever directed, and that was at Rowan. And that was a play featuring 5 women. that was another solo piece that I did with the balloons. And that picture of the woman like sitting in the chalk on the floor was from Gamma Rays as well. Cute. Oh, and these are my children's theater days. Well, I guess that wasn't all. Those are adults. I don't know why I called them children, but that was I directed Grease was the first musical I ever directed, and then that's Xanadu as well. Yeah.
For you, what are the differences that you see in terms of like directing musicals versus plays? Because I've directed several short plays before, and assistant directed some longer ones, but I've never done any direction when it comes to a musical. What are some differences that you?
I mean, there's obviously so many more moving parts with musicals. Like, there's a lot more collaborators. There's musicians. There's microphones. There's like choreography. And it's so much more time to share in the rehearsal with choreographers, music directors. That's a big difference. I mean, I actually, I think for me personally, it's super similar. Like, to me, a monologue is a song. Like, they're not that different to me. And it's part of why I actually really love doing musicals, because I really like to take time and work with actors on songs, just because it's like the thing that like kills me is like to see somebody stand still for an entire song where I'm like, something is happening in this song. Like, ooh, there are beats, there are things changing. We can add some variety, people. So I love that. But I honestly, like, I don't have like a favorite style at all. Like, I would love to do plays, but more plays, I guess. But it's one of those things where it's like people will pigeonhole you real quick. They'll be like, she does musicals. I'm like, oof.
And you're like, I can do musicals.
Yeah.
And I that must just be because I guess, I mean, granted for me, but also I guess for others as well, people find like directing musicals to be harder because there are so many moving parts. So that maybe that's where the pigeonholing comes in. But if nothing else, then it's like you're talented at doing directing musicals. It's just like, hey, a reminder, just like I'm an actress. It's also like I direct other things.
Yeah, it's always like that thing in theater where you have to like kind of advocate for your own identity, or else somebody will tell you what it is, which is a very confusing thing to go through. Which
100%.
Like, can you all shut up and let us decide who we are on our own, and you can mind your business?
Yeah, exactly. And then talking about directing and musicals specifically, you did Xanadu at the Eagle earlier this year. It was the Eagle's first production, quote unquote, post-pandemic. I hate to call it that. I had COVID last week, but and I believe it was the first production you had gotten to direct there, correct?
Yeah. I don't have any kind of history with the theater that I work in now, which is, I mean, kind of funny, I suppose. But yeah, so it was like I was introducing myself to a theater that had this like kind of historical audience that's like now coming back in from a company that worked with mainly the same directors on every show for like a decade. So it was, I mean, sort of intimidating. I put so much pressure on myself. I'm like an unnecessary amount of pressure, but
understandable. What helped you pick Xanadu? Or how did you pick Xanadu?
Like, there was at first this like practical nature of like finding a show with a small cast, finding a musical that was fun and happy and lighthearted with a small cast, which frankly, there's not that many of them. Like, there's so many ways of doing creative things and like getting through that objective of like doing something fun and lighthearted with a small cast. But obviously people freaking love musicals. So like, it was like, it's gotta be a musical. The first thing back's gotta be a musical. And anyway, the choice of Xanadu just ended up being really perfect because Xanadu is about like giving life to an old abandoned theater after all these years.
Yeah.
And it's just like this, like, I don't know, the metaphor of it was just like a little too perfect. I was like, it should be everyone's first show back.
Well, and it's so truly, and it's just so much fun and literally filled with color and light. And it's perfectly, I feel like in many ways so well represents you, not just like as a director, but as an artist. And so I
Oh
know
my
it must
gosh.
have
Well,
been like so much
it
fun.
has drag in it too.
That too, exactly. It's literally perfect for you.
It is so perfect.
Were there some parts of working on Xanadu that ended up surprising you that you didn't expect?
I mean, personal things, I guess, for me was that I actually really love, like, unironically, like, I love jukebox musicals. Like, I think that I'm just a person who personally really loves pop music.
Yeah.
And I have a passion. I have like another life I want to live of like directing music videos. Like, that is just like a dream of mine. I'm like, I love like hearing a song and then like making a pretty picture out of it, which like Xanadu is literally just a bunch of songs that have nothing to do with anything. Like,
Yep.
they barely fit the plot of the show. It's
the
just
book
like,
the book does some heavy lifting where it can.
it's like ridiculous. Like, they're just songs. They're just singing a song. There's so many lyrics in the show that I'm like, why did you just say that? That has nothing to do with anything. But regardless, I just found that I love that. I'm like, I love directing actors through pop music. I think it's so much fun. It just feels like me. Like, I just feel pretty like, I don't know. I feel like at home when it's like music that's like pop music and feels like completely irrelevant to the story. I'm like, oh, let's just have fun.
Yeah.
And be creative and do whatever, add ribbons, whatever.
No, I feel like that's 100% up your alley. Like the more crazy and fun that you could possibly have on stage, you're like, cool, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yep, exactly.
Like, it's perfect. And so then going back to then the producing side of things, because you ended up doing this directorial position after getting a job at the Eagle. How did this job at the Eagle come about? Because I feel like even when it was happening, I didn't even know everything that you were going through in terms of applying to the job and how it came about. So I'm curious. Tell me, how did this all come about?
It's unconventional. I guess. I don't know how people get jobs, but they usually apply. I did not apply for this job, strangely enough. So like, there are so many theaters right now going through leadership changes. Like, it's a huge thing across all American theaters right now. And at Eagle Theater, there was leadership that was on its way out, and my board
in 2020 too.
This is in
right
2020.
before.
Yeah,
right before the pandemic.
February 2020 is when I started. I got a phone call from the board chair at the time, basically like saying, "Hey, we are looking for someone to work at Eagle Theater. Have you heard of us?" I'm like, "I've seen a show there." And they're like, "Well, you came recommended from your faculty at Rowan University, and we'd love to interview you." And basically they were like, "When can you start?"
Oh my gosh.
I was like, "I'm in grad school, but I can start today. I could use a job." I was meant to be graduating. I don't even know. I guess I was supposed to be graduating like in a semester or something like that. And I was just, I don't know. I went for it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was originally hired as an interim executive director, and eventually found myself advocating for my own identity in that process, saying, "Oh, I'm actually not a business person. Like, I got parts of my brain that are business, but I'm all artistic. Like, I have to. You won't have me if I can't like feed that part of my soul."
Yeah.
So eventually found myself into a producing artistic role, thankfully, and full-time and also permanent position after. I mean, I think they needed to. Part of it is like they just needed somebody, but it worked out for me because I was like,
you're like, I can do that actually. Oh my gosh. Well, and then you had some producing experience prior in terms of like working on like Rowan and things like that. But I'm sure going into this, you're like, yeah, I know how to produce.
I'm like, there are so many things. It's also like, it's not even just like a theater company. Like I've worked with theater companies, I've worked in administrative offices of theater companies, but it's also like the oversight of like a brick and mortar as well too, like a actual facility. I'm
building, yeah.
I guess I'm gonna try my best with that one.
Yeah. And
I had
so
a lot of support, so it's all good.
Absolutely. Totally. Well, then, so today, as producing artistic director, what all does that job title entail? Because I feel like sometimes when it comes to those kinds of titles, everyone's sort of like, yeah, I think I know what that is. But for you, what does your job entail?
It's been changing. It's been like, I've never known anything normal about it since I've worked there, because I've only worked there in a global pandemic. And it's cool in that, like, right now, like, Eagle Theater is also going through an identity crisis, having new leadership. But it's right now, my job looks like this, like, person who's trying to synthesize so many different things all the time. So we're doing strategic planning, we're doing a diversity, equity, and inclusion retreat. So we're trying to like have these conversations kind of go simultaneously, so that we can kind of like come together, because we have more new leadership at the theater. We have an education program that like just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and so I'm both trying to like shape the culture at my theater while choosing artistic programming that like makes people feel like they're a community. It makes people feel like they're a part of this theater and feel like that's like their home, and also trying to like shape a culture for professional theater artists to come work in South Jersey, which is not your typical like, oh, I'm going to be a professional actor here in South Jersey. Like, but trying to come up with artistic programming that like feels like as awesome as being a part of something in Chicago or in Philadelphia or New York or whatever, somewhere that feels like, oh, this is as good as that.
Yeah.
So lots of things, no pressure at all, but
so many things, but it's always something new, that it's a new adventure to get started on. And I can imagine that's also very satisfying to like look back and being like, wow, look at all the stuff that we've already done so far. Like you have so much to do and work on, but you guys have already done so much in coming back and doing shows.
It's so funny to like look back and be like, see what you've actually done, because it always feels like you can always think you're going to do more or do better. And but having some retrospect is definitely beneficial when in any kind of leadership, because it honestly can feel like it also can just be so hard and so like demoralizing some days where it's just like exhausting. It's like, oh no, we don't have donors, no one's donating to our theater. Like this show had like 20 people in the audience. Like those days are where it just feels like I suck at my job. And the thing is that it's just like it's a journey. Like it's going to take so long to get it where you really want it to be. And so, yeah, I'm like, there's so many times I'm like, I could just leave and then this problem could be somebody else's, which people have done, and that is totally fine. But like someone's gotta like stand by it and like own it and like really advocate for it going in a better direction.
Yeah.
That's also just like what happens with theater in general. Like when we're all like, I'm done with this, I'm gonna let it be the next person's problem. And like, it just always becomes our problem. Like it always becomes like those people's, just like, that's why they call me. They're like, hey, you came recommended because, you know, somebody didn't really
someone's got to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's crazy. Yeah. Well, and I know one thing that we wanted to talk about was like the balance between her. Kind of touched on it a little bit already, but the balance between being an artist as well as an administrator, because both of those are such a huge aspect of who you are. And granted, in situations where you're like get to direct Xanadu and then work at the Eagle, I know work really well together.
It's really I love it because I love being a part of both sides of it, but there's also like some really not fun parts of it.
Yeah.
Mostly because, you know, you want to make art with people you love. And like in this industry, especially I'm in South Jersey. I was born and raised here. I know everyone that does theater in this like 40-mile radius. I'm like, I know you all. There are 12 roles in this show. There is finite resources, finite opportunities. And so that balance of like, being the person that's like advocating for how much money they have while you're also like understanding how much money's in the bank and like knowing every single person in your cast. It's just like, it's a very weird world, and it's like hard to like I don't know, code shift, I guess, to be like, oh, here I am, like your friend, acting and collaborating and making art with you, but then I have to go in and like put on this like bad guy hat, or I guess it's not bad guy, but it's just like, you have to do your job at the end of the day, because theater is a business, unfortunately. But yeah, finding that balance is an ongoing process for me.
Yeah, well, and also I'm sure like many with full-time jobs. Now, granted, your full-time job is in a theater, but like even just finding that time to carve out for yourself to be like, okay, I'm going to use my creative side now.
Yeah,
I know
I'm bad at that. I'm so bad at that, actually.
Same.
Well, I've become worse and worse in it, like since I started working at a theater, because I'm like burned out from being at a theater. Like there was actually like a point, like when theater was coming back or whatever, that I was just like, I don't want to go see a show tonight. Like I'm done. I'm like, I don't want to see a show. Like, I mean, I've also been like noticing like my like appetite for theater is just like, I don't have it some days, or like for like long stretches of time. Like I don't listen to musical theater anymore. I'm like, I haven't read, I mean, this is going to sound terrible. Like,
no,
I don't read quite as many plays as I used to. I used to be reading like plays every week, especially in grad school. And now I'm just like, like I am doing this at least 40 hours a week. I'm like, I could use a break from it.
And I think that's so healthy too, and to like take those breaks, because like quite literally it's just burnout. Even though you're not necessarily doing theater in like the creative capacity of it, you're constantly like doing / working on theater. So it like, while it doesn't feel like you're doing the creative thing, like you're very much involved in it. So you just got to find those ways like to not do it for a while. And I think that helps us all in the long run, because if we're still trying to shove it down our throats, we'd just all be so burned out and exhausted. Like,
I know,
there's just no way.
Yeah, you definitely have to have those boundaries. But they've come naturally to me. I'm like, because I've just been like, oof, no,
you're like,
no more.
You're like, okay, hard line now. Yeah. Well, and then it's funny because then transitioning on to, you're about to be a professor at your alma mater, Rowan. Tell me about, how did this position come about? Because you're starting like now, right? Like classes have started. Like, tell me about it.
I sent you that bio, I think yesterday, and I like just added that because it like was Friday. I think I had a Facebook message from the previous chair of the theater department, just like, hey, I mean, it was something that I personally had been manifesting for like years. Like the day I was like, I think I'm going to get my master's, I was like talking about it with my chair, and she's like, well, as soon as you get your master's, just let me know. Like, we'll get you an adjunct or an adjuncting job here. Because my it's a liberal arts college, so the university is just like almost every student's like required to take. It's a pretty big school, but they're all required to take like a creative arts class. So there's so many sections of experiencing acting available through the theater department that are taught by like, I mean, there's probably like 6 or 8 different adjunct faculty teaching this class. So I'm like, I'm so excited to do it though. Like, I mean, everyone knows that like professors aren't actually like taught how to teach. I took one semester of teaching theater, thankfully. So I'm like, well, let's hope that comes back into my brain at some point when I go into this. But I did try while I was at Villanova taking teaching of theater to like think about this potential happening. So I did curate my own like intro to acting class while I was studying at Villanova. So I have a little bit of practice, but I'm still like,
that's helpful.
I'm
At
going
least
in a little blind.
That's fair, but at least you had enough, I guess, knowledge in the back of your mind to be like, this might be a thing that could happen, so I should probably keep that in mind. So like, at least you have like a little bit of like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing, even though like, of course, everything will change as soon as you meet all your students. But
I know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna know all their names. I'm gonna make them go see shows. I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm like, I just know I'm gonna put like 500% into it. Like the idea of like the first day of school has me so excited. I bought a backpack.
heck yeah.
I am like thinking about my outfit. I am like 12 years old again. Like I'm about to like go to sleep like in my first day of school outfit. I'm just like so excited. I love school so much. Yeah. Mostly for the social aspect.
No, I'm the exact same way. Like as soon as school ended, I'm like, wait, so I don't like see people regularly every week at a certain time? That's upsetting.
I know. I'm gonna like we're all gonna sit in a circle together and we're all gonna play games. I am like geeking out. I'm so excited. Oh like there is no like staying chill about this. Like I am excited.
It's so exciting. Oh my gosh. When does your first day of class?
I think it's like they told me starting September 6th, but it's Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm like looking at my calendar. I'm like,
you're like,
I don't know. I don't know because that would be like Labor Day. And I'm assuming they're closed on Labor Day.
Yeah. Probably good thing to check in on.
I don't know. We'll find out. I literally like just found out that I'm doing this. So but I have 2 classes. I'm like, oh my Dash God. My partner Dash and I were like talking about like, oh, like I wish you like he was like, oh, it'd be so much easier if you only had 1 class. I'm like, no, I'm actually really glad I have 2 classes because they're back to back. So I'm gonna make all my mistakes on the first
one.
And then I'll get to practice right afterwards with my next group. So like it'll be great.
It'll be fantastic. No one has to worry about it. Oh my gosh. That's going to be so much fun. And I'm so excited for you to teach these undergrad because I'm sure these are going to be a lot of like, are they like college freshmen, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of like freshmen and sophomore. And I have a feeling it's going to be like a lot of non-majors or theater minors. So yeah, I don't know. I actually got to teach but I taught like an acting for beginners, like or acting for non-theater people pretty recently as this kind of community engagement I was doing around Circle Mirror Transformation, the show we did last season. So I was like going into like community centers with like and trying to do it as like a teamwork development. So I was like trying to like teach them about theater so that they can use the skills of theater to like think about their own lives and how they treat people.
Yeah.
And so like I have like those kinds of like thoughts in my brain that I'm like so easy to apply that for people who are like non-majors, but then like anybody who's like actually like in the same space that's there because they really want to learn more about acting, like they'll be fed too.
That's so exciting. And I cannot wait to hear everything about it. It's going to be so much fun and I'm so excited for you. You're going to do amazing as well. Deep breaths. You're going to do great.
I know. I'm gonna be like the oldest one in the class. I'm like, I guess you and I were both pretty young grad students. So yeah. Not that it was like old, but I was always like feeling like I always felt like I was like one of the youngest people in the room. And I'm like kind of I feel like it gives you like a little bit more confidence to be like, I have some wisdom over you just from being on this planet a little bit more.
Yeah, just like a few years older can really bring so much of a difference, truly.
Yeah.
Like even just like when I was working in retail, just being like, oh, all of these kids are still in college or just graduated undergrad. And I'm a few years older. That alone was like, it's gonna be fine, child. Like you're all good. It gives you a certain amount of confidence.
Gives me confidence. Like just knowing I'm a little bit smarter than you is just enough. Like the fact that you are asking me questions, like you need some kind of validation from me. I'm like, okay.
We're good.
We're good.
Amazing. So with going back to the Eagle really quick, do you have anything coming up at the Eagle that we should know about or be aware of?
Our season should be announced this month. I mean, we are just waiting on some show artwork, but you know what? I'm happy to tell you what I'll be doing because you know what? If anybody finds out, then this is your sneak peek.
There you go.
So
tell us what you're working on.
I'm going to be directing Wild Party, the Lipa's Wild Party.
Ooh.
And that'll be in February of 2023. So I'm, working on that and currently making some casting calls. And so y'all can check that out whenever that's done and Equity lets me do my job. And yeah, that's the big thing I'm working on right now. And then we'll be going into fringe planning, which I know almost nothing about. I've never planned a fringe festival before, but that's next at Eagle, just the thought process and planning of that. And then we do so many like different community engagement things. Like we're going to be doing a movie screening of Hocus Pocus and Little Shop of Horrors. Like we're just trying to do like some fun, like cute things to like meet people and connect with people, because last year it was just a lot of like, people coming to the show and then leaving and hiding behind their mask, which is great. I want them to be safe. But I'm also like, I have no idea who these people are. And like, I need them to keep coming back to my theater, and I need to like get to know them and meet them, or else I won't have a job anymore. And also I just like want it to do well. Like, I think that South Jersey just deserves to have a really awesome professional theater company. And so I'm just like trying to like go all in to make the community a real part of the theater. So our season is like connection, community, and creativity, a nice little alliteration. But like the season of main stage productions has, we're doing Water by the Spoonful, and we're doing Wild Party. So they're both like about gathering and community, obviously wildly different. And wildly different endings and morals and whatever. But just like the nature of like people coming together and gathering is just like, at least that those are like kind of these like concentric circles, I guess. And just my desire to party with my donors and with my patrons and all the people that I like, and the artists. I'm just like, I want to do these things with you guys and connect with you. So that's kind of the big goal, I guess, right now.
Truly building the community and building those relationships. And
it's so funny.
Go ahead.
People think that like saying community is like a dirty word in professional theater, because it's like you're like devaluing your art by calling it community. And it's like, no. That's not the point.
We're not calling it community theater, but it's like theater for the community and building that. As someone who has done a few community theater productions that were of like really good quality, that hurts. That stings a bit.
I know.
I hate that. But go follow the Eagle on Instagram to keep an eye out on all these amazing events, because you guys are constantly doing such amazing stuff that looks like so much fun. And I wish I could just like come down to South Jersey real quick and enjoy them. But nonetheless, go check that out, because it's going to be so much fun. But crazy enough as it is, we've come to the end of this episode. So Angela, where can people find you out on the interwebs?
You can check out Eagle Theater on Instagram at The Eagle Theater with an RE. Our website's eagletheater.org. My Instagram's at Angela Rose Longo. And my website is arltheater.com.
Amazing. And I will link all those below when this video is over, when this live stream is over, so that you can check out all of those wonderful links and follow Angela and all that good stuff. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lora_Marjoram, and my website, www.loramarjoram.com. You can find this show on Instagram at Overtures Show, and on YouTube, search Overtures Show. That's where we go live. All the updates go to Instagram. And then further down the road, I am constantly posting to Spotify and Apple Music. I'm hoping one day to maybe catch up just enough. Maybe, who knows? We'll hopefully make that happen, but slow and steady is the game. My next stream is going to be on September 11th at the moment. I might squeeze in Alexandra before then, so keep an eye out on the Instagram. But if not, definitely on September 11th with Patrick McAndrew. It's going to be a great time. But yeah, Angela, do you have any final thoughts for viewers live and in the future?
Wash your hands, brush your teeth, be nice to people, And make sure you like, click, and subscribe and follow Lora on everything.
Perfect. It's perfect. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that. Thank you so much, Angela, for being on. And I hope everyone listening, watching, all that good stuff has an amazing day. But yeah,